Hey guys, this is Momin. I am here to do a video today and break the Nick streak on this channel that has been going on for a while. I want to talk about empathy today and how it has helped me, not just in recovery but also like generally in my life as well. And this is going to be more of a, I would say, philosophical video in a way, even though I don't consider myself a philosopher, or like maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll just sit by the beach, look at the birds, and write about life. But this is a bit of an abstract concept, I think. But I want to try my best to conceptualize it and try to talk in more constructive terms about it, so that it is more understandable to anyone watching, and it's also easier to grasp, therefore, because you understand it better. So wait, let me just adjust the brightness a little bit. I think this is fine now, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so before I move on, please do subscribe to our channel if you like our videos. If you like us, please subscribe, and let us know what you think about our videos in the comments, and yeah, give feedback. We'd love to hear from you. So I want to talk about empathy because it has something that like practicing empathy, or my muscle of empathy, if you would. It is something that has benefited me a lot throughout my life, and it has helped me a lot in my life. And I'm someone you would consider like a born empath in a way. I've always found it relatively easy to understand another person's emotional working and how it relates to their thoughts, behaviors, and patterns of feeling. So, and hopefully, and this is just my experience of how it has helped me, and I only want to talk about it because I think there might be some helpful pointers for people in here to relate to their own experiences or their own journeys, whether in life generally or with OCD specifically. And in the end, I also want to relate the concepts of empathy and acceptance, because I think there are many things in both these concepts that go quite hand in hand, and they correlate with each other quite a lot. So in that sense, it can be very helpful. Also, before I move forward, it's raining outside basically. So and it's drizzling. It's not heavily raining, but in case it gets heavy and if there is background pitter patter of the rain, please ignore. Yeah, we've had rain after quite a while. It's been super hot over here. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I think like our ability to empathize with someone, or just our like empathy tools, they are really put to the test, and they are really tested, especially in conversation with someone, when we are engaging actively in conversation with someone, because you kind of have to think on your feet. You have to think about, oh my god, how do I respond to this person, or do I show more emotion, do I use the right words, how do I relate myself, or how do I relate my experience to this, what do I say to them in return, do I say the right thing or the wrong thing? So those are a lot of things that people in their minds when they're having a conversation, especially if it's a very important conversation, or sometimes even a heavy conversation. That's when we start to really think of how to go about it. And so this is how I see practicing empathy. What you are doing is you are essentially giving the other person the time and the opportunity to explain themselves and explain their thoughts or their feelings to you, or just expressing their opinions about something. Just allowing them to do that, because, and that sounds like a no shit Sherlock thing, but I feel like sometimes it's not very common sense for people to do that sometimes, because our reaction to something that we might disagree with or something we might dislike is very instant most of the time. And we, even if we don't react in our heads, we are instantly judging what the other person is saying, and this reaction starts to build up in us, and these very intense feelings and emotions start to build inside of us. So and I think that's where we start to tilt towards irrationality sometimes, and we start to lose our ability to empathize with the other person. So just listening and hearing someone out explain themselves, because it's really important to understand the logic that the other person is operating from, because we all have our own patterns of thinking, patterns of behaving, and how we relate our past experiences to our opinions in the present time, how we relate our observations around the world to our opinions, and we all have a certain way of doing that. There is a certain like cause and effect to that sometimes, most of the time actually. So just understanding that logic that goes behind how someone is thinking is really is helpful information, because whether it's a relationship, whether it's your colleagues, your friends or family, anybody, if you don't allow yourself the opportunity to try to understand them or try to see where they're coming from, your communication with them is likely to suffer, especially when push comes to shove, when it's like really when it's a tricky situation sometimes. That's especially when communication can break down, because if you're not allowing the other person that opportunity, then they will not also allow you the opportunity, more than likely, to explain yourselves and explain where you are coming from. So, and I think when we are engaged in conversation with someone, what happens is that, and we disagree with what they're saying, or we think what they're saying is very wrong, or it's terrible, or it's completely just out of this world, whatever they're trying to explain. And this happens mostly, I would say, in like political discussions, or like or discussions about social issues and stuff like that. We start to put up these walls. We have this like guard up. We have our walls up, and because we don't want to seem like we are weak in character or weak in our opinions, or the ideologies that we identify with, or we don't want to seem like we are gullible or easy to manipulate and easy to convince. I am my own person. I have my thoughts. You will not convince me. I will not change my opinions for you. And especially in this day and age, I feel like there's so much conversation about individuality and having a sense of identity, or identifying with like a certain side, or with a theory or whatever. And what ends up happening is that we aggressively latch onto that that those ideas, and those ideas of the self that we have, that this is the person I am. I will not change, I will not budge, because that will make me look weak, and I can be maybe easily manipulated. It's a very ego thing. It's like an internal ego battle that begins within us when we are then talking to another person. And it's almost like this it's almost like this battle that inside your head that you're having with the other person. And that's really not helpful, because then you're not operating from a place of empathy. Then you're operating from a place of fear, and you're operating from a place of being afraid, and from irrationality and anxiety, because you are attaching, nobody else is doing that. You are attaching so many stakes to this one conversation that you're having with the person. You're attaching so many stakes to the disagreement that you might have with the other person, or what you may consider the other person saying as something wrong. You're the one who is like building it up so much and giving it so much leverage, just that thing. And when we start to operate from that place of fear, that's when we start to put walls up, because we build like this fortress around ourselves, and we want to like really defend it vigorously and be like, no, I will not let an arrow, come inside my fort. I will defend it very aggressively and stuff like that, because we are afraid that, oh my god, what will happen if we agree with that person, or if we seem like we are starting to think like them, or that we are starting to be convinced by them. It's a lot to do with like the ego battle that you have. And here's where I want to bring in some misconceptions about empathy, which correlate to misconceptions about acceptance as well. So if you are empathizing with someone or exercising your empathy with someone in conversation, does not mean that you are agreeing with them. It does not mean that you like what they're saying, or that you approve of what they're saying, or you think that what they are saying or doing is right. It only means that you are objectively just understand, like I said before, you're just understanding the logic with which they operate. You're trying to understand where they are coming from, their different experiences, their different opinions, the observations, the genetic makeup and whatnot. Everything combined, what is it that is bringing them to this place in the present where they're thinking or feeling this way. And that's what people think about acceptance as well. That's a misconception, that if we are accepting something, that means we are approving of it, or we think it's good, or we are agreeing with it, or we like it. But no, it's really not that. It's just seeing that, okay, there's a person who thinks or feels a certain way. That one thing does not define them, their entire personhood. And you don't have to like or agree or do any of those things with them. You are just observing from an objective point of view how they operate or how they approach different things. And if you really think about it, isn't that what we all in life essentially then crave? To just be understood, and for the other person to see where we're coming from, because we get really riled up if someone we feel is misunderstanding us or misinterpreting what we're saying. So, I mean, why don't we at least start with ourselves and try to, then make that effort to first understand the other person, and most likely they will extend that courtesy to you as well, in a way. So I feel like that's where it happens, like in conversation that really gets tested, and it becomes this ego battle. And even when you think about, when you're latching onto an idea of the self, that this is me, this is what I stand for, I am my thoughts and I am my opinions, you are, number one, you're not unconditionally accepting yourself, or you're not like at least giving yourself the opportunity to move towards that. And also, it's also a very skewed concept to have of this self. Like, what is like identity, or what is the self? Hannah did a video on this like many months ago. You can search on this channel, which is I think it's called The Idea of the Self. Because if we were, for example, if we were born with just this one identity or this one sense of self, then nobody would ever progress in life. Nobody would ever have the ability to change. Nobody would ever make any moves in life, basically. We would all be this stagnant person that remains stationary. There's no room for growth, there's no room for improvement, there's no room for progress, and that's it. So it's really important to let go of that strong idea of the self that we are so rigidly hanging on to. I'm not saying that you can't have values. I'm not saying that you can't have your own opinions or ways of thinking. What I'm only trying to say is that if you just define yourself by that, and if you feel immediately threatened when a disagreement comes your way, that's something that's bound to make you extremely anxious and extremely on edge, and just, and that's where I feel like people then become more prone to going berserk or having outbursts or getting furious and just having terrible fights and arguments with people, or not even with people, even screaming at the television maybe that how dare that person do this, blah blah blah. So it's really about it. This entire exercise about empathy, yes, it's about the other person and your relationship with them, and just human dynamics in general, but also it's a lot to do with yourself as well. It's a lot to do with your empathy is in a strange way. I feel like it also extends to yourself when you are extending it to someone else. I don't know how to explain it, but like when you are trying to be empathetic with someone and understand their emotions, you are also, you often end up, I won't say always, but you often end up maybe doing that for yourself as well, because you are able to see where you are coming from, even though that not might be the best thing, even though you might dislike that thing about yourself, and that's fine. You can dislike it, you don't have to like it, but you see the logic, and then you start to maybe make changes to that, or make changes to the way you behave or act or say different things. So, and I'm not saying, by the way, I also want to clarify that this does not mean that I'm completely zen in my life and I'm completely calm and collected all the time. Yes, obviously I do get annoyed and I do get frustrated, but like I said, you can be annoyed, you can dislike things, you can get frustrated, but the difference is that when you begin to have empathy, and that therefore also helps you with acceptance, which I'll just come to, it also starts to burden you less in life. I mean, you don't have a conversation with someone and it ruins your entire day, and the entire day you're thinking about it and you're going it over in your head, and you're just like, that miserable, blah blah blah, that person, and it doesn't impact you on such a visceral level anymore. I mean, I feel like, because like we talk about Albert Ellis and how he also says that we upset ourselves, like people don't upset us, we upset ourselves by our beliefs and our perspectives on a certain thing or person or whatever. And this is the case over here. Like if a conversation with someone has ruined your entire day or your entire week maybe, and you're just like going over it in your head over and over again, then you are piling that ton of bricks on yourself. But when we practice empathy, and therefore in practice also acceptance, it goes from a ton of bricks to maybe like one brick on each shoulder, or maybe two bricks on each shoulder. Like I said, I mean, it's okay to be annoyed, it's okay to dislike something that someone says, or it's okay to disagree with someone, or not approve of something. Again, acceptance does not mean agreement, acceptance does not mean liking it, acceptance does not mean promoting or approving of something. And that's the same with empathy. So yeah, you just reduce your own suffering, you just reduce your own misery, and this becomes then in turn a great exercise in taking discomfort for the ride and wearing anxiety like an uncomfortable coat. Like it does happen. I am annoyed with people sometimes when they say something, or I've had a conversation early in the day and it just like keeps annoying me. But then it's annoyance. It's not the world has ended, or this is just like absolutely terrible and I will not stand for this. Like it doesn't become that. It's an annoyance, and I can carry on with my day just as I want to, or as I've planned. Like I can make this video. I can talk to my friends. I can go out, hang out with my friends. I can do my work. I can do my school work. I can study. I can listen to music. I can read, whatever I want to do, even if the annoyance is buzzing in the background. And that then further becomes like a great exercise in not aiming for perfect feelings or ideal feelings to go on with your day. Perfectionism is something that a lot of OCD sufferers go with. Like they feel like until and unless they don't feel like the ideal happiness, they cannot enjoy their life, whether it's a vacation or whatever it is that they want to do in life. But they want to have ideal feelings, and they want to be in the ideal state of mind. But again, and I don't think there is ever, maybe, perhaps I don't think there's ever any situation where you are enjoying yourself where every single thing is ideal. Like, even if you're having the best time with your friends, think about some of the best times you might have had, some of the most joyous times you might have had. There would be something that would not be ideal. Like, I don't know, if you were at a restaurant and you were having a good time, maybe your food wasn't great, or maybe I don't know, if you were enjoying, maybe the weather wasn't ideal and it was extremely hot and humid and you were just like sweating your ass off, or something of the sort. I mean, again, there are so many things that are not the best, or maybe you're going through a breakup, or maybe you have a headache, or maybe I don't know, you've had stitches and that's hurting. There can be so many random things. So, and I'm sure you've had those moments. You can, if you really think about it, I'm sure you've had moments where one aspect in that situation was unideal, but you were still able to take it further, right? And that's how, wow, I really went on a long explanation. But what I'm trying to say is that by exercising empathy, by even disagreeing with someone or not liking something that they've said or whatever it is, you can still carry on with your day with it being a good exercise in acceptance. And trust me, I've had many conversations with people where while I'm having it, I greatly disagree with them with what they're saying. But that doesn't mean that I stop them right there and I write them off and I say, no, I don't agree with this. No, you are just like, get out. You're a terrible person. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have this conversation. You are this, you are that, blah, blah. I am able to hear them out, even if I really disagree with them, and even if I think they're being super irrational or being what you might consider a jerk or whatever. But and I still carry on with the conversation. I don't back away from it. I don't shut them up. I keep an open mind to do that, even if it's uncomfortable. And trust me, I've been through those uncomfortable situations. But then, in turn, I've also had that opportunity to then further talk to them and explain my side. And honestly, I would say that this has, for the most part, worked out in my life and in all kinds of relationships I've had. This approach has really worked. There's hardly, I can say, and I can't even recall if I try to, there's hardly an experience with practicing empathy or being empathetic with someone, even if I don't like them or their views or whatever, where it has gone sour or where it has been like, just gone off. I've not had that experience yet, and I've been, at least I think so, I hope so, that I have been able to carve out like really healthy relationships and really healthy interactions, again, whether with friends, family, colleagues, or whoever it is, even with strangers for that matter. I think I've been able to maintain like a really good health meter with those people. So wow, how long? 23 minutes. Wow, I talk a lot. Anyway, I will move on to like some of the other things that I want to touch upon. The one other aspect that I want to touch upon is that if you are a family member who is watching this, or someone who is, if you have a loved one who is an OCD sufferer, and you are someone who is like an empath, I feel like for you might have to reel back your empathy a little bit, because if you give an OCD sufferer the opportunity to talk a lot, it can, beyond a certain point, it just enables them to confess more or ask for reassurance more. So you might have to actually stop them and be like, you know what, you can't go down that route, because now you are performing a compulsion. So of course, I'm not saying that don't try to understand what they're going through. Yes, do that, but like I said, beyond a certain point. And for further advice, I would suggest you watch Erica's videos on this channel, because she's done some great videos on how family members of OCD sufferers can best support them. So I would redirect you towards that. And if you are an OCD sufferer and your family does not understand or is not giving you the opportunity to talk, that's fine. Again, there are more videos on the channel on why other people are not, there's no must in them understanding each and every single aspect of your OCD, and it's okay if they don't, because you can still work on your recovery. And if they are someone who do understand OCD, but they're still stopping you from explaining yourself or being like, no, I don't want to hear this, they might be doing you a favor, because you most likely, if you're so desperate to talk about it in that way, there is a chance that you might be wanting to confess or ask for reassurance in some way, in a direct or indirect way. So if they're stopping you, that's a good thing. They might be doing you a favor. You will not like it. It will suck maybe, but it's for in the long run, it's for the greater good. So there. Now I want to I have my notes like I mostly do I want to talk about acceptance and how exercising empathy and being empathetic with people has helped me with self, other and life acceptance. So with self acceptance, I would say that it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that when it becomes this like you're putting your guard up out of this fear because you feel like another opinion that you might disagree with is like a threat or something. So by letting that guard down, by exercising that kind of openness, or that kind of having an open listening ear, that might make you anxious, that might make you even feel afraid, and that might make you feel like, oh my god, am I letting someone convince me the wrong way or manipulate me or whatever. It becomes an exposure in a way in its own. I'm saying way a lot, but it becomes an exposure in its own way through exercise. By doing that, by letting your internal resistance down, you stay open to what the other person is saying, it becomes a great exposure. And also you have to remember that even if you end up agreeing or liking what the other person is saying, even if you end up changing your opinion about that certain subject matter because of what the other person is saying, you might dislike that about you, or it might be something in society that is disliked, that opinion, but that opinion does not define your entire personhood. That's just one part of you. That one little thing does not have to extend to all aspects of your life, because just think about it. It doesn't make sense that if you're someone who has an unpopular opinion about maybe a TV show, if you are like, oh, I don't like Friends, that gets people right up. But if you're like someone, I don't like Friends, if you don't like Friends, then how does that nullify you as an entire person and all the other things that you do or stand for, or like all your other personality traits and whatnot? So your actions, your thoughts are not your entire being. Being able to separate that, even if you dislike something about yourself, it's okay. It's okay to have dislikable qualities. Working on that acceptance, and obviously there are a lot of other fears that come with it. What will other people think of me? What if people judge me? What if people reject me for thinking this way? And there are a lot of other fears that come with it. So again, many videos on breaking down all those different kinds of fears, and you can really try to break it down rationally and see, okay, what are the different components of this one fear that I have, what goes into feeding this fear, and you can start to break it down. With other acceptance, I think number one, I would say by listening to the other person, it really increases your frustration tolerance as well, because there will be so many opinions that you will come across that you will think that you vehemently disagree with, and you're like, what is this? Like, how can a person even think this? Yes, you will think that. You will have that thought in your head, but again, it's a great exercise in frustration tolerance, and therefore your ability to let disagreement stay there and let a wrong opinion or a bad opinion stay there. You're not fighting yourself or the universe of why does this thing exist. You are practicing acceptance. Your distress tolerance for these uncomfortable feelings really you're really able to exercise that distress tolerance and take it up a different level. So, and also I think, I don't know how to explain this, but when you understand the logic the other person is coming from, or their approach to that situation or whatever it is, somehow that does help in simmering down your intense, like, I don't know, anger or disapproval or awfulization of it. It somehow brings it down. I don't know, because you're able to see it from a more I think in some objective scientific way, you're able to see it more as a cause and effect thing in a way, and not this exaggerated monster that is about to tear down your entire fort of selfhood or identity or whatever it is. So definitely, I think just understanding the logic, because you then also know that you're operating from a certain logic as well, and so is the other person. So it just helps with, that bringing down that awfulization and exaggeration of feelings and despair and misery and fury that you are attaching to that disagreement. And it really, it really helps in, because I think also, as sometimes as OCD sufferers especially, we become what do you call it, I'm forgetting the word, but it's basically we become allergic to conflict. And so we think that if we disagree with someone, or if someone disagree with us, oh my god, how will we handle that? How is that possible? So by practicing other acceptance, by seeing their logic, by raising your frustration tolerance, you are also able to take the distress away from a possible disagreement that you may have with another person. So that's how it really helps you build your unconditional other acceptance as well. And unconditional life acceptance, by being exposed to all these different views in life, these different ways of perceiving things, you're able to see that, and this will sound very flowery or whatever, but I'm going to say it anyway. I mean, it really helps you see that life and society at large is this tapestry of different colors and different textures and different materials and different cloths. And you're able to really expand your worldview, and you're able to see the world in a more full way. I don't know how else to explain that, but you're able to see it in a more full way. You don't wait. I'm just trying to check. Okay, yeah. I was just trying to check like the camera settings. Oops, it got a little bright. Anyway, I think it's. But yeah, so you're able to really see life in a different way, in a more full way. And I do think that one of the reasons that we tend to have this, immediate aggressive reaction to a dissenting opinion, or like something that we do not like, is also because for the longer we keep ourselves in a bubble of our own opinions and our own perspectives, I think something is up with the voltage. Sorry, but if something really just the longer that we stay in our bubble of our own views and our own perspectives, I feel like the longer we stay in that, the more we become married to those ideas and those perspectives, and therefore we become so reactionary and allergic to anything that is different, because we feel like, oh my god, this is so alien, and because it's so alien, you start viewing it as a threat, and then you think it will, start to damage your entire personhood or your life. It's threatening your life and your well-being and all of those things. So you awfulize those things a lot. But when you start to step by step, with time, with age, when you start to really be open to more ideas and listen to so many different opinions and perspectives in life, you're able to exercise your acceptance muscle of life as well, that life is made up of the good, bad, the ugly. Not everything will be catered to your liking or what you think is suitable in society, or what is more agreeable. There might be even things that will shock you one day and you will like, what? I mean, this happens in the world too. There will be shocking moments like that as well. But again, it's all about not awfulizing that, and just being more empathetic again towards people, to society, to yourself as well, and being more compassionate towards them, and understanding that there is, like, everyone operates from a certain logic, everyone comes from a certain place. And yeah, and the last thing that I want to mention is that when we talk about rationality, so I don't and empathy and acceptance, I don't mean that I feel like the goalpost for rationality moves depending on the context of the situation itself and the dynamics within the situation in that moment. So, like, I won't I mean, if someone's trying to stab me, I won't be like, hey, you know what, let's sit down and talk. Let's be all zen about it. I mean, in that situation, probably the logical or the rational thing might be to, I don't know, break a bottle on that person's head. Like they do in the movies sometimes, like they break glass on someone's head and then they escape or something. So, I mean, again, what I'm trying to say is that the goalpost for rationality moves. So, I'm not saying that if someone is operating at a certain level with you, you completely, you just say, hey, let's have a conversation, because sometimes that might not be possible. But what I'm trying to say is that it's really great to empathy is really great to keep your irrationality in check. So, for example, if someone says that, oh, I don't like pineapples on pizza. Robert, I'm looking at you. If someone says that I don't like pineapples on pizza, it doesn't mean you burn their house down. That's irrational. I mean, obviously I'm talking about an extreme example, but what I'm trying to say is that rationality is not this rationality and acceptance is not this stagnant thing. It's not like, oh, if you are rational, if you are accepting, that means that it's these very set of actions that you have to follow in every kind of situation. No, that changes with the situation and with the dynamics in that situation. So I just want to point that out, because I think a lot of people think that, oh, by being empathetic, does that mean that we don't, we think that it's the very same actions in every single situation, but no. It does change depending on the context. So you have to really sometimes just think for a second and pause for a second and think, am I being rational? Am I in line with acceptance, or am I being irrational about something? So anyway, I've talked for nearly 40 minutes. It's 36 minutes, but I think I've covered mostly everything that I wanted to cover. And if you have any questions, if you need any further clarifications, because I do understand that this was a bit of a more, like I said, abstract video. But if you have questions, if you want to talk about this, you can comment. Or if you are one of the people in the WhatsApp groups or the Facebook groups, you can tag me and be like, hey, can we talk about this? I want to ask you a question. So yeah, let me know. The Nick streak is over, for now at least. So have a good day, have a great weekend up ahead, and yeah, I hope this video helps you. Bye.